Everyone thinks a surplus is always a good thing.
Right, it feels completely intuitive.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in your personal finances, having money left over at the end of the month is a victory. Owing money is all, it's stress.
Absolutely.
So naturally, we just map that logic onto entire nations. We look at a country like China with its massive trade surplus and we think, that's the goal. We need to be selling more than we buy. Always.
It is the standard way people look at it.
But what if I told you that for a developing economy like India, a current account surplus might actually be a red flag? What if, and bear with me here, what if having money left over is actually a sign of idle money?
Idle money?
Yeah, resources that are just sitting in a vault somewhere instead of, building roads, factories, and schools.
It is the classic paradox of thrift, but applied to a whole nation. It sounds completely counterintuitive when you first hear it.
It really does.
But when you actually peel back the layers of the balance of payments, a deficit, if it is managed correctly, can actually be the engine of growth. And a surplus can be a sign of total stagnation.
And that is exactly the kind of provocative idea we are unpacking today. Welcome to another deep dive. We aren't just skimming the surface of the headlines here.
No, we are cracking open the Indian economy section specifically for you, the UPSC aspirant.
We are taking the dry, dusty ledgers of international trade and turning them into a literal strategy for your exam.
We are essentially decoding the financial nervous system of the country today, and we are doing it by synthesizing two of the absolute heavyweights in UPSC preparation.
Right. We are looking at Chapter 24 of Sanjeev Verma's Indian Economy.
And we are layering in the technical precision of Vivek Singh's 7th edition of Indian Economy to make sure the conceptual clarity is just absolute.
Before we get into the heavy lifting, though, I have a quick request for you listening. If you are getting value from this analysis, please hit that subscribe button on the Simplified UPSC by PPP YouTube channel.
It really does help us justify the immense amount of coffee we drink to research these deep dives.
It does. And if you are in a position to help us keep the lights on and the research flowing, consider supporting us on Patreon. It's a huge help.
A massive, genuine shout out and thank you to all our current supporters. You are literally the reason we can do this.
And for everyone listening, please remember to like the video and leave a valuable comment. It tells the algorithm that this isn't just noise, it's signal.
Also, make sure to check the resources. We've dropped free notes with practice PYQs, previous year questions right there on our public Telegram channel.
Right. And for the serious aspirants who want the VIP treatment, our private Telegram library is open. You get access to all the videos in this series at once, plus the premium notes.
We're talking detailed breakdowns, extra PYQs, and model mains answers that can really polish your writing style for the exam.
Just DM us on the public Telegram channel to get in. Now let's get to work.
Let's do it.
Our mission today is to decode the balance of payments, or BOP. But we aren't just going to sit here memorizing definitions.
No, that won't help in the mains.
Exactly. We're going to look at the different accounts, current versus capital. We're going to dissect the terrifying twin deficit hypothesis, and then we're going to have a serious debate about that surplus question I raised in the hook.
And finally, we will test your mettle with some real UPSC questions straight from the sources. It's a complete roadmap from basic definition to complex application.
So let's start with the ledger itself. Part 1, the ledger of a nation. When we say balance of payments, what are we actually balancing? It sounds like a checking account.
In a way it is, but it's a checking account for the entire country. The textbook definition of BOPIA is a systematic record of all economic transactions between the residents of a country and the rest of the world.
Over a specific period.
Right, usually a financial year.
I want to stop you right there because you used a very specific word. You said residents.
Yes.
You didn't say citizens. In the context of the UPSC exam, that distinction is usually a trap, isn't it?
Yeah.
Why residents?
It's a crucial distinction, and Vivek Singh's book is very clear on this point. The BOP is concerned with economic territory, not just political nationality.
Okay, economic territory.
Right. An Indian resident for BOP purposes is someone whose center of economic interest is in India.
Let's stress test that definition.
Yeah.
Suppose I'm an Indian citizen, passport and all, but I moved to New York to work for a tech company. I'm living there for 2 years. Am I a resident?
No. According to the rules Vivek Singh outlines, once you are abroad for more than a year, your economic center shifts. You become a non-resident Indian, or NRI. Okay. Now, here is where it matters for the ledger. If you, living in New York, send money back to your mom in Mumbai, that is a transaction between a non-resident you and a resident your mom.
And Because it crosses that resident to non-resident barrier?
It hits the balance of payments. It is recorded.
Okay, let's flip the scenario. I'm an Indian resident, I live in Delhi, and I go to London for a 2-week vacation. While I'm there, I buy a ticket to ride the London Eye.
That counts. You are a resident spending money in the rest of the world. That is an outflow.
But what if I just transfer money from my Indian bank account to my own Forex travel card while I'm sitting in my hotel in London?
That is just you moving your own money around. The transaction that actually matters is when you hand that card to the British company to buy the ticket.
Because that is the interaction between a resident and a non-resident.
The BOP strictly records that interaction. It doesn't care about your citizenship. It cares about where you pay taxes and where you spend your daily economic life.
So the BOP is essentially a gatekeeper. It watches every dollar, euro, or yen that crosses the economic border.
Precisely. And it uses a double entry system to do this. This is standard accounting 101. Every transaction has two sides.
Right, credits and debits.
Exactly. We have inflows money coming in. We mark those as credits, and they have a positive sign. And we have outflows money going out. Those are debits, marked with a negative sign.
Give me the absolute simplest example of this mechanism in action.
Exports and imports. If you export a massive shipment of Darjeeling tea to France, France pays you in euros or dollars, money enters India. That is a credit.
Simple enough.
Conversely, if India imports crude oil from Saudi Arabia, we have to pay them. Money leaves India. That is a debit.
And theoretically, if we add up every single credit and every single debit at the end of the year across the entire country, what should the final number be?
In a purely perfect accounting world, it should sum to zero. Assets equal liabilities.
But the real world is messy.
Very messy. In economics, we actually don't care about the zero. We care about the imbalance in the specific categories of that ledger. Are we bleeding money in trade? Are we borrowing too much? That's where the real UPSC analysis lies.
Which perfectly leads us to the structure of the ledger itself. It's usually split into two main folders, the current account and the capital account. I always like to think of the current account as the nation's day-to-day wallet.
That's a brilliant analogy. The current account captures the real-time, ongoing economic behavior of the country.
The daily grind.
Exactly. It's about consumption, trade, and income happening right now. It's not about future assets. It's about today's bills. It tells you if the country is earning enough from its daily operations to pay for its daily needs.
So if we open up this wallet, what exactly is inside?
Two main compartments. First, the balance of trade. This is also called visible trade.
Visible trade. This is the stuff you can physically drop on your foot.
Yes, merchandise, cars, mobile phones, wheat, crude oil, physical goods moving across borders. Now for India, this specific compartment is almost always in the red. We consistently run a trade deficit.
Meaning we buy more stuff than we sell. Why is that? Is it just that we aren't manufacturing enough goods?
That is part of it. Our manufacturing sector is still maturing, especially compared to an export giant like China. But really, you have to look at what we import.
Oil.
Oil. Our biggest import bill is crude oil. We are an incredibly energy-hungry nation with very limited domestic reserves.
And then we can't just stop buying it.
Exactly. The demand for oil is highly inelastic. We need it to run the transport sector, the factories, everything, regardless of the global price. If oil prices spike globally because of a conflict, our import bill explodes and the trade deficit just widens massively.
And what is the second culprit dragging down our visible trade?
Historically, according to the texts, it's gold.
The famous Indian obsession with gold.
It is deeply cultural: weddings, festivals, safe haven savings. But in a purely economic sense, it's a dead weight in the balance of payments.
Because it doesn't do anything.
Right. We import tons of gold, paying out billions of valuable dollars, and that gold just sits in bank lockers or jewelry boxes. It doesn't produce anything. It is not a machine that makes other machines.
So because of our massive appetite for oil and gold, our visible trade is deeply negative. We are bleeding dollars in this compartment.
Heavily.
Okay, so if the visible trade is dragging us down so much, how are we not totally bankrupt? How are we actually paying for all this expensive oil?
That is where the second compartment of the wallet comes in, the balance of invisibles.
Okay, so if trade is the stuff you can drop on your foot, invisibles are the things you can't.
Correct. And Vivek Singh breaks this down into three very distinct subcategories. You really need to memorize these for the exam because the UPSC loves to mix them up in the options. They are services, income, and transfers.
Let's run through them one by one. Services first.
This is India's absolute superpower on the global stage. This is the IT sector.
Right.
When Infosys, Wipro, or TCS writes software code for a major bank in New York or London, that bank pays them in dollars. We are exporting a service.
And this includes tourism too, right?
Yes, foreigners coming to India and spending their dollars here, and transport services as well. We run a massive, massive surplus in this category.
So essentially, the software engineers sitting in Bangalore and Hyderabad are subsidizing the crude oil we burn in our cars across the country.
In a balance of payment sense, absolutely they are. They are earning the foreign currency that pays for the oil. Without the services surplus, our economy would be in a much, much deeper hole.
That makes sense. Let's look at the next one, under invisibles. Income. This one always trips people up, because when you hear income, you immediately think of wages or salary.
And that is the trap. It's not wages. Think of it strictly as returns on investment. This covers profit, interest, and dividends.
Give me an example of how that flows.
Sure. If the Indian government borrows money from Japan to build a new bullet train project, we have to pay interest on that loan every single year.
So that interest payment is an outflow.
Yes, an outflow under the income category.
And what if an Indian company, let's say Tata Motors, makes a profit in the UK with Jaguar Land Rover and decides to send that profit back home?
That would be an inflow under income. But unfortunately for India, we usually have a net deficit in this specific category.
Because we have more foreign loans and foreign investments inside India than we have Indian investments sitting abroad.
Exactly. Net, more money leaves the country as interest and dividends than comes in. So income is usually a negative for us.
Okay, and the third subcategory of invisibles, transfers. Specifically, unilateral transfers.
Unilateral means one-way traffic. I give you money, and I get absolutely nothing back. No goods, no services.
We are talking about remittances.
The remittance economy. India is the world's undisputed champion of remittances. This is the nurse from Kerala working a shift in Dubai, or the software engineer in Silicon Valley, sending a part of their monthly salary back home to their parents.
And why is this classified differently than the software company in Bangalore exporting code? They both bring in dollars.
Because the software company is selling a service. The New York bank pays for the code. It is a trade. In remittances, the worker abroad is just sending money. It's categorized as a gift or a grant.
It creates no future obligation.
Right. It creates no liability. We do not have to pay it back, and we didn't have to ship a physical good or perform a corporate service to get it. It is the purest form of foreign exchange inflow.
It's essentially a massive free injection of capital directly into the economy.
And it is a total lifeline for our balance of payments. So when you look at the final current account math, it looks like this. You take the massive trade deficit in goods, you add the huge surplus in services, and you add the huge surplus in transfers.
But usually the hole dug by the oil and gold imports is so incredibly deep that even the mighty IT sector and all the global remittances combined can't fill it completely.
Correct. So historically, year after year, India runs a current account deficit, or CAD. We are effectively spending more on the world stage for our daily needs than we are earning.
Which brings us to a very obvious problem. If I personally spend more than I earn every month, I have to find that extra money somewhere. I either have to borrow it from a bank or I have to start selling my furniture.
And that is exactly what the capital account is for. If the current account is your daily wallet, the capital account is your mortgage and investment portfolio.
So this is where we record transactions that change the actual assets or liabilities of the country.
Yes. This is where the big structural money moves. And there is a very crucial distinction here that Sanjeev Verma emphasizes heavily in his book, the distinction between debt and equity.
Because not all money coming into the country is equal?
Not at all. You constantly have to ask yourself, does this dollar coming in create a future headache for us?
Let's break down the components of the capital account. What are the main ways we actually get this capital money to fund our deficit?
There are three main buckets you need to know. First is foreign investment. And this splits into two very famous acronyms that you see constantly in the financial news, FDI and FPI.
Foreign direct investment and foreign portfolio investment. What is the practical street-level difference between the two?
I like to think of FDI as a marriage. A foreign company, say Google or Samsung, comes to India. They buy physical land, they build a massive campus, they hire thousands of local employees.
They're putting down real roots.
Exactly. It's a long-term commitment. If the Indian stock market has a terrible year, they can't just pack up the concrete building and leave. They are locked in.
And FPI?
FPI is more like a Tinder date.
A Tinder date.
Yes. It's what we call hot money. These are global investors sitting in high-rises in London or New York, just buying shares of Reliance or HDFC on the Bombay Stock Exchange. They are only here for the quick returns.
So the U.S. Federal Reserve suddenly raises interest rates, making it more attractive to keep money in America.
Or if there is even a rumor of political instability in India, they can sell those Indian shares with the click of a button and pull all their money out in seconds.
So FPI is highly volatile. It's a fair weather friendship.
Exactly. But both FDI and FPI bring in dollars, so they both sit in the capital account. Now, why does the government vastly prefer FDI? Because it is non-debt creating. It's equity.
Meaning, if Google's new office in India fails and doesn't make a profit, that's Google's problem. India doesn't owe them their money back.
Right, we didn't promise them a fixed return. Contrast that with the second bucket of the capital account, loans.
You're talking about external commercial borrowings, or ECBs?
Yes. This is when an Indian corporate entity, instead of selling shares to raise money, just goes to a foreign bank in London and takes out a massive loan.
Usually because the interest rates might be lower there than borrowing from an Indian bank.
Often, yes. But this is strictly debt creating. We have to pay it back with interest, and we have to pay it back in foreign currency.
So it creates a direct liability for the country.
And it carries massive risk. It doesn't matter if the Indian business totally fails, the foreign debt remains. And if the Indian rupee weakens against the US dollar during that time, paying back that loan suddenly becomes incredibly expensive.
That makes sense. And what's the third bucket in the capital account?
Banking capital.
Yeah.
This is mostly comprised of NRI deposits. Remember our friend who moved to New York?
Right, the one who became a non-resident.
If he doesn't send the money to his mom as a gift, but instead decides to put his dollars into a fixed deposit in an Indian bank because Indian banks happen to be offering higher interest rates than U.S. banks.
That is money coming into India, so it's a credit.
It is a credit, but the Indian bank eventually has to pay it back to him with interest, so it is also a liability. It counts as debt in the broader macroeconomic sense.
So when we look at the capital account as a whole, we have a mix of safe money, which is FDI, and risky money, which is FPI and foreign loans.
And the ultimate goal of a stable, resilient economy is to finance your current account deficit using that stable, non-debt creating flow like FDI.
You don't want to fund your daily groceries, like your oil imports, using a credit card like foreign loans that can be called in at any moment.
Exactly. You want to fund it by selling a stake in your future growth to partners who are willing to stay for the long haul.
That is a vital strategic point for anyone studying for this exam. Now let's zoom out to a nightmare scenario that Sanjeev Verma mentions as the ultimate warning sign for an economy: the twin deficit.
Ah, the twin deficit. This is when a country has both a fiscal deficit and a current account deficit simultaneously.
Break that down for us. Why twin?
A fiscal deficit means the government itself is living beyond its means. It is spending more on schemes and infrastructure than it collects in domestic taxes, so it is forced to borrow heavily from the domestic market.
Okay, that's domestic.
And a current account deficit, as we just discussed, means the economy as a whole is living beyond its means internationally. We are importing more than we export. So we are borrowing from the international market to fund the gap.
It is quite literally burning the candle at both ends.
It makes the country incredibly vulnerable. You are dependent on foreign investors to fund your daily trade, and you are dependent on endless debt to keep your government running.
And if investor sentiment suddenly turns negative,
like it did for India during the major 1991 balance of payments crisis, the flow of foreign money just stops. You can't pay for your imports, your currency crashes, and the whole system grinds to a halt. The twin deficit is the boogeyman that keeps RBI governors awake at night.
And that brings us perfectly to the core debate of this entire episode. We know deficits carry risk. The 1991 crisis was literally a BOP crisis. So logically, we should all want to be like China. We should want a massive current account surplus. We should want to stack up dollars in the RBI vaults up to the ceiling.
That is the conventional layman's wisdom. People hear the words surplus equals profit equals strength, deficit equals loss equals weakness.
But Sanjeev Verma completely challenges this in his book. He asks a very pointed question. Is a surplus always the best use of resources for a developing nation?
It's the idle money argument. Think about what a current account surplus actually physically means for a country. It means you sold a bunch of goods, you earned billions of dollars, and then You didn't spend them, you just parked them in the foreign exchange reserves.
But isn't saving money a good thing?
For an individual household?
Yes.
But for a developing nation that is starving for world-class infrastructure, maybe not. Money is just a tool. If India runs a massive surplus, it implies that our domestic demand for growth is actually weak. It implies we aren't importing the high-tech machinery, the advanced energy systems, and the raw materials we desperately need to build next-generation factories and high-speed railways.
So those hard-earned dollars are just sitting there idle instead of being converted into productive assets on the ground.
Exactly. In economic terms, it suggests a severe lack of absorptive capacity. We earned the capital from the rest of the world, but our internal economy wasn't dynamic enough to find a way to use it to grow. Sanjeev Verma argues that for a rapidly growing country like India, a manageable current account deficit is actually a sign of health.
Because that deficit represents us importing vital capital goods.
Yes. If the deficit is caused because we are importing 50 massive tunnel boring machines for new subway systems or expensive semiconductor fabrication equipment or advanced solar panel technology, that is direct investment in our future growth. We are borrowing from the world today so we can produce 10 times more tomorrow.
It's the difference between taking out a massive student loan to go to medical school versus taking out a loan to go gamble in Las Vegas.
That is the perfect analogy. The medical school loan is a deficit, yes, but it builds human capital. It dramatically increases your future earning potential. The Vegas loan is just pure consumption. The money is gone.
So China runs a surplus because they are already an industrialized giant. They sometimes need to cool down their domestic economy and just export their excess capacity.
Right, but India needs to heat up. We are still building the foundation. We need global capital. So we shouldn't blindly chase a surplus if it comes at the direct cost of industrial growth.
But there has to be a major caveat to this, right?
If
The deficit is only healthy if.
it is financed correctly. This is the ultimate open economy constraint. If we run a large deficit to build infrastructure, but we fund it entirely with hot money, with FPI or short-term commercial loans, we are sitting on a time bomb.
Because they can ask for their money back before the infrastructure starts paying off.
Exactly. But if we run a deficit and fund it heavily with FDI long-term equity, then we are in the absolute sweet spot. We are successfully using global capital to build Indian infrastructure without taking on paralyzing debt.
And that nuance right there is what separates a generalist from a specialist in the UPSC exam. The answer to a mains question isn't simply deficit bad, surplus good. The answer depends entirely on the question. What is the quality of the deficit?
Precisely. You have to look at the internal composition. A current account deficit of 2% of GDP that is financed entirely by stable FDI is excellent. A deficit of 2% financed entirely by short-term foreign loans is a macroeconomic crisis waiting to happen.
Let's shift gears to part 6. Convertibility. This is the mechanics of how we actually move the money in and out of the country, and this is a topic that often confuses aspirants.
Convertibility is simply the freedom to exchange your domestic currency, the rupee, for foreign currency, like the dollar, without facing strict government restrictions. It's a measure of how liquid and globally integrated your currency is.
We often hear in the news that India has full current account convertibility, but only partial capital account convertibility. What does that actually mean for the average listener?
Full current account convertibility means that for any normal transaction that falls into the current account wallet we talked about earlier, things like trade, travel, medical treatment, or education, you can freely go and buy dollars.
So if I want to send my kid to Harvard,
The government says, sure, here are the dollars you need, go pay the tuition. If a business wants to import a fleet of Mercedes cars, they can. They just have to pay the regular customs duty. The RBI won't step in and physically stop you from converting the rupees to dollars to make the purchase. India actually achieved this back in 1994.
okay, but what if I win the lottery and I decide I don't want to import a car, I want to take all my life savings and just buy a massive condo in Manhattan tomorrow?
That would be a capital account transaction because you are attempting to create a permanent asset abroad, and that is heavily restricted.
This is the partial convertibility.
Yes. We have partial capital account convertibility. You can do it up to a certain strict limit, usually under something called the Liberalized Remittance Scheme, or LRS, but you absolutely cannot just move billions of rupees freely out of the country to buy foreign assets.
And it works the other way too, right? Foreign investors can't just buy unlimited amounts of Indian government debt.
Correct. There are strict quotas in place.
Why the hesitation from the government? Why does the RBI act like such a strict parent when it comes to the capital account?
You have to look at the history, specifically the Asian financial crisis of 1997.
The East Asian Tigers.
Yes, countries like Thailand, Indonesia, and South Korea had opened up their capital accounts fully. They allowed massive amounts of money to flow in and out without any real restriction. They thought it was the best way to rapidly bring in foreign investment.
And it worked incredibly well right up until it didn't.
Exactly. When market sentiment suddenly turned negative, all that all that hot money rushed for the exit door at the exact same time. It caused a massive phenomenon known as capital flight.
And their currencies just collapsed.
Crashed overnight. Decades of economic progress were wiped out in a matter of weeks.
So the RBI looked at that disaster next door and said, "We will keep our gate half closed, thank you very much."
They set up the Tarapore committee to study it. And the committee laid out a very clear roadmap. They essentially said, we can have full capital account convertibility eventually, but only when we are bulletproof.
Meaning we need to hit specific targets.
Yes. A very low fiscal deficit, strictly controlled inflation, massive Forex reserves to defend the currency, and a highly robust domestic banking system. Until we officially tick all those boxes, we have to actively manage the capital flow to protect the rupee from wild volatility.
It's a macroeconomic safety valve. It might be annoying for billionaires who want to seamlessly move their wealth around the globe, but it protects the average Indian citizen from sudden hyperinflation and currency crashes.
It prioritizes stability over pure market efficiency. And if you look at how India navigated the 2008 global financial crisis, you could argue that cautious approach has served us relatively well.
All right, we've covered the heavy theory, we've debated the surplus question, and we've mapped out the policy. Now it's time to see if it actually sticks for the exam. Let's do the PYQ linkage. I'm going to throw actual UPSC past year questions at you.
I'm ready. Let's do it.
Question 1. This is from the 2013 prelims. The quote is, "The balance of payments of a country is a systematic record of," end quote. Option A, all import and export transactions of a country during a given period. Or option B, economic transactions between the government of one country to another.
This is a great example of a tricky question because option A sounds generally right, but is it perfectly precise? The BOP isn't just imports and exports in the colloquial sense of physical goods. It includes invisibles and capital flows, too.
Right. But let's look at option B.
Option B is definitely wrong because it says government to government. The BOP includes private citizens and corporations, not just the state.
The actual answer accepted by the Commission was option A. But the key conceptual piece missing in their phrasing is the resident versus non-resident distinction we talked about.
It is. But in the actual exam environment, you have to choose the best available option. Option A covers the broad scope of international transactions much better than the other options provided, even if the wording is a bit loose compared to Vivek Singh's strict definition. The key operative phrase they are testing is systematic record.
Good breakdown. Let's move to question 2. This is from the 2014 prelims. Quote, "Which of the following constitutes the current account?" End quote. Here are the 4 items to filter. 1. Balance of trade. 2. Foreign assets. 3. Balance of invisibles. 4. Special drawing rights, or SDRs.
Let's apply the framework we built. Number 1, balance of trade, that's physical goods. Yes, that is firmly in the current account wallet.
Number 2, foreign assets.
The very word assets screams capital account. It represents a long-term holding, so we eliminate number 2.
Number 3, balance of invisibles.
That is our services and our transfers. Yes, that is the second compartment of the current account.
And number 4, SDRs.
Special drawing rights are an artificial currency asset created by the IMF. They are part of the RBI's Forex reserves. That represents the bottom line of the overall balance, not the day-to-day current account. So we eliminate 4.
So the final answer is 1 and 3 only. Balance of trade and balance of invisibles.
Spot on.
Okay. Question 3. Let's jump back to 2013. Quote, "Which of the following constitute capital account?" End quote. The items are 1. Foreign loans. 2. Foreign direct investment, FDI. 3. Private remittances. 4. Portfolio investment.
This tests the exact classic trap we discussed earlier. Let's go through them. Foreign loans. Yes, taking a loan creates a future liability. That is capital account.
Number 2, FDI.
Yes, it creates an equity asset in the country. Capital account.
Number 4, portfolio investment.
Yes, that is the hot money entering the stock market. Changes asset holdings. Capital account.
And what about number 3, private remittances?
Stop right there. Remittances are unilateral transfers. They go straight into the invisibles bucket of the current account.
So the correct answer is 1, 2, and 4 only.
Exactly. If you are listening to this right now and you instinctively marked remittances as capital because, well, it's money being sent to a bank, you just fell right into the examiner's trap. Remember, the golden rule. Does this transaction create a future liability or change an asset? If the answer is no, like with a remittance gift, then it is not capital account.
That simple heuristic checking for a liability or asset change will save you in the prelims every single time.
It really will.
Let's wrap this up with a forward-looking thought for the listeners.
Hmm.
The entire political and economic machinery of India is currently chasing the goal of becoming a $5 trillion economy. As we aggressively grow toward that number, the very nature of our balance of payments has to fundamentally change.
It absolutely has to. As our domestic companies become massive global conglomerates, they will start investing heavily abroad. We might actually see the income account, which is currently negative, flip to positive as we bring home global profits.
But the massive elephant in the room is energy.
Always. Unless we aggressively solve our energy dependence, meaning a massive structural shift to renewables, solar, and green hydrogen, our visible trade deficit driven by imported oil will remain a massive anchor on our economic growth.
And here's a highly provocative thought to leave you with, to chew on after the episode ends. Does a balance of payments deficit even matter if the rest of the world implicitly trusts your currency?
Ah, the exorbitant privilege.
Exactly. Look at the United States. The U.S. runs absolutely massive, mind-boggling current account deficits year after year. But because the U.S. dollar is the unquestioned global reserve currency, they can essentially just print more money to pay for their imports. If India continues its push for the global internationalization of the rupee, and if foreign countries start accepting rupees for trade, could we one day reach a point where we can just ignore our own deficit?
That is the ultimate geopolitical power move. If you can pay for Saudi oil in your own printed rupees, the deficit stops being a structural constraint. But realistically, we are a very, very long way from having the economic gravity of the US dollar. For now, and for your exam, we have to carefully watch the ledger.
Very true. If this deep dive helps you understand the balance of payments better than a standard textbook ever could, do us a huge favor. Smash that like button right now. It really matters for the channel.
And please don't forget to join the private Telegram library. That is where you get the premium notes, the extra PYQs, and the model mains answers we talked about. Just DM us on the public channel to request access.
Support us on Patreon if you have the means to help us keep producing this content. Make sure you subscribe to Simplified UPSC by PPP. We will see you in the next deep dive.
Keep learning and keep analyzing.